Hi, this is Leonard from Master Sprinter TV. Today we're going to talk about the topic of executing a lean, or the effect of a lean for 100 to 200 meter sprint athletes. The proper execution of a lean at the tape can actually potentially improve one's time by about 0.01 seconds. However, a mistimed or misexecuted lean can actually have the reverse effect of adversely affecting one's time by potentially even a few 100ths of a second. Worst case scenario could even result in an injury. So we're going to discuss that in this video. So why are leans sometimes executed improperly? Well, one reason is basically because there are a number of lines on the track. Sometimes people may, or the athlete may mistime or misassess where the finish line is. Another reason could be just kind of pressure. You feel the presence of other athletes. Maybe some of them are slightly ahead of you. As you're approaching the finish, you may be even seeing the other athletes lean, and you may lean even though you're still a couple, 2 or 3 strides away from the finish. So, and then lastly, just could be fatigue in general. So what happens when a lean is misexecuted? Well, basically it's a breakdown in sprint mechanics. So your center of mass is moving forward, stride length is shortened, knee height is not coming up, is not at a normal level, braking forces are created. It has the effect of creating deceleration, which is the exact opposite of what you really want to do in the final strides of a race. And worst case scenario, it could result in a fall, which would result in at least a minor injury. So what is the proper execution of a lean at the finish? Well, basically you want to execute this lean in the final step prior to the finish, at toe off, and kind of in the flight phase. You don't, obviously you don't want to affect your sprint posture prior to the lean or leading up to the lean. And again, this is going to be at the very end. You don't want to be doing this out 2, 3 steps before the finish. It's literally at toe off on that last step before the finish. So how is the time assessed? Well, basically it's when either the torso or the shoulder crosses the vertical plane of the finish line. It's not the head, it's not the arms or the knees or the foot, that sort of thing. So again, the focus should be, like I said, on the lean is just either getting your torso forward, or maybe a shoulder, your front shoulder, but anything else really, it doesn't count. So there's no purpose in it. And like I said, if you try to extend other limbs, then it could kind of throw you off balance and result in a fall. So that's what we're trying to avoid. Now, in many cases, the best strategy, kind of risk reward approach, would be to just run through the tape, don't mess with the lean at all, and again, because the potential benefits are really only going to be about 0.01 seconds, and again, if it's mistimed, misexecuted, it actually can end up being 2 or 3 hundredths of a second, or even a fall after the finish line. So in many cases, for masters athletes, it may be best to just run through the tape and not worry about the lean at all. But we're going to kind of throw some scenarios out here shortly on how to, or at least assessing that. Now, some athletes will take the approach of kind of throwing both arms back at the finish. For masters athletes, particularly in the 100 meters, I would advise against that, because doing that, again, if you're moving at high velocity and then you're trying to do that, well, basically you're going to have to rotate your torso, because if you've got one arm out, then how do you get the other arm back in time? So you kind of throw off your arm coordination, and again, it kind of defeats your sprint posture in those final steps as you're trying to do that. So I would advise against throwing both arms back, at least for 100 meters. Okay, so I'm going to try something here. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but what I'm going to attempt to do, again, this is just going to be, it's not sprinting at high speed. We're just going to actually march through, but I'm going to attempt a roughly 5 meter fly, running through the finish. Do another scenario with an attempt to do, execute the lean on that last toe off, and then thirdly, we'll do kind of a mistimed lean see what the effects are, hand time results. We might even try one with the 2 arms back. Again, this is nothing scientific, but let's see how it goes. So hopefully I've given you some overview of the reasons why leans are executed, kind of the risk of mistiming it or mis-executing the lean, and then kind of showing you, even though the marches may not be the best way to illustrate it, but in the end, your starts out of the blocks, your angles coming out of the blocks during acceleration, during max velocity are certainly more critical than the lean itself or the finish itself. But there is some potential benefit if executed properly. Again, in many cases, it's best just to run straight through the tape. Don't worry about it. It's not going to make that much of a difference. So until next video.